welcome to the deep dive.
Hmm.
Ever have that feeling? Like, even when things are okay, you've got food, a roof, you're comfortable, there's still this itch for something more.
Oh, absolutely. A better house, maybe more recognition. Just, yeah. That feeling that it's not quite done.
Exactly. Finished. It's kind of a universal human thing, isn't it?
It really is. And it's something people have puzzled over for, well, forever. Psychologists, philosophers, spiritual folks, they've all tackled this sense of incompleteness.
Makes you wonder if we're just wired that way, always reaching.
Well, one really influential idea came about in the 1940s from Abraham Maslow. He looked at this and thought, maybe our needs aren't just random. Maybe there's a structure to them.
A structure. Okay, like layers.
Yeah, pretty much. He pictured it as a hierarchy. You often see it as a pyramid, different levels of needs, starting with the absolute basics for survival and building up towards personal fulfillment.
Right. Maslow's pyramid. I've heard of that. It sounds, well, logical.
It does on the surface.
But then you look around, or even at yourself, right? Like someone chasing a creative dream, totally skipping meals, or someone finding real peace with almost nothing. It feels messier than a neat pyramid.
That's a really important point, and it's fair. No single model captures everything perfectly. Think of the pyramid as maybe a starting point, a map to begin exploring why we're driven the way we are.
Okay.
So, for this deep dive, using the materials you shared, articles, notes, research, let's walk through Maslow's idea, see what it offers, and then look at where it maybe bumps up against real life and newer thinking.
All right, let's do it. Where do we start? The bottom of the pyramid.
Exactly. The absolute base. Maslow called these physiological needs.
Okay, so the real basics.
The absolute must-haves for any living thing, really. Food, water, warmth, sleep, rest. The fundamentals. If you don't have these...
Nothing else really matters. You're not thinking about self-improvement if you're starving.
Precisely. Survival mode kicks in. So that's layer one. Only when those are, let's say, reasonably met do we tend to focus upwards. Layer two, safety needs.
Safety. So like not getting eaten by a tiger, historically speaking.
Yeah, something like that. Freedom from immediate danger. But today, it translates more to security, having a roof over your head, stable income, health, maybe health insurance, job security fits in here too.
It's about feeling the ground is stable beneath your feet, kind of.
That's a good way to put it. Freedom from fear, predictability.
Okay. Fed, watered, safe. What's next on the climb?
Connection. This is huge. The third layer is love and belongingness needs.
The social stuff.
Deeply social. We need relationships, intimacy, and not just romantic, but friendship, family, feeling like you belong to a group, a community, a tribe.
And if you don't have that,
Yeah.
that's where loneliness comes in.
Exactly. And it's not just a feeling. Research actually shows chronic loneliness can be as bad for your physical health as, like, smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's serious. Yeah, we're wired for connection. It explains why someone could have, all the money and comfort in the world, but still feel totally lost if they don't have those meaningful bonds.
That makes a lot of sense. So survival, safety, belonging, check, check, check. What's layer 4?
Esteem needs. This is about respect, both respect from others and self-respect.
So wanting to feel valuable,
Yeah.
competent.
Yes. Recognition, status, achievement, feeling confident in yourself, wanting to feel like you matter, basically, to others and to yourself.
This feels like where things get tricky today. Like compliments stick with you, but insults can really sting.
Absolutely. And think about social media. It taps right into this, doesn't it? The likes, the followers, the validation. It's all feeding that need for belonging and esteem.
Yeah, but it feels so fragile sometimes. Always comparing yourself.
It really can be. It creates this environment of constant comparison to curated best lives, which can actually make you feel less esteemed even if your other needs are met. It's a tricky layer.
Okay, so after Esteem was at the very top, the peak of the pyramid.
That's self-actualization.
Big one.
Kind of. It's the drive to become, well, the most you can be, fulfilling your unique potential, living authentically.
So less about what others think, more about your own inner drive.
Exactly. It's not about survival or external praise anymore. It's about meaning. For one person, it might be painting. For another, teaching, meditating, starting a movement, exploring, whatever expresses their deepest self.
It sounds less like a destination you arrive at and more like a direction.
That's a great way to think about it. It's often a continuous process, a path of growth. People touch it in different ways.
So the whole journey Maslow mapped out is kind of like from needing bread to needing belonging to needing to, well, become yourself.
Yeah, bred to belonging to becoming. Framed that way, it's quite a beautiful arc, isn't it? It suggests maybe our deepest longing isn't just for more stuff, but more self.
It is hopeful, but here's the but, right?
Mm,
Life just doesn't feel that linear. People jump around on this pyramid, don't they?
yeah.
Or get stuck.
Absolutely, and that's where the major critiques of the strict hierarchy come in. It was a groundbreaking idea for sure, but modern psychology and just observing life shows our needs are much messier.
Messier how?
They overlap, they clash. Sometimes they even seem to go in reverse order. It's not always step one, then step two.
Right, like the classic starving artist trope. Someone living in a tiny room, maybe not eating great, but pouring everything into their art that looks like prioritizing self-actualization over safety or even physiological needs.
Exactly. Or think about monks or spiritual ascetics who intentionally renounce material things, even relationships sometimes, to pursue enlightenment or self-realization. Their path seems to start differently, maybe even at the top, in a way.
So the order isn't fixed.
It doesn't seem to be universally fixed, no. And this is where research gets really interesting, like that big study by Tay and Diener back in 2011. They looked at data from like 123 countries.
Wow, okay. What did they find?
They found that, yeah, meeting basic needs generally links to feeling better everywhere. No surprise there. But the strict order, that step-by-step hierarchy, that didn't really hold up across all cultures.
Ah, so culture plays a big role in how we prioritize needs.
It seems so. Maslow's model, you have to remember, came out of a specific context, mid-20th century Western individualistic society. Compare that to, say, some traditional Eastern philosophies, like in India.
How so?
Well, in some of those views, spiritual liberation or self-realization isn't the final peak you climb to. It might be seen as the primary goal from the start, something you work towards sometimes by detaching from those lower needs.
That completely flips the pyramid idea on its head.
It really reframes the whole thing. What counts as a need, what drives us. It's not just psychology, it's deeply cultural, philosophical, personal.
And then you throw the internet and social media into this equation.
Oh boy, yeah. Then it becomes less like a pyramid and more like a whirlwind.
A whirlwind, how do you mean?
Social media just blurs all those layers Maslow talked about. On one single platform, you can be seeking connection, right? Belonging.
Sure.
And seeking esteem validation, likes, comments.
Definitely.
Maybe even trying to project a certain self-actualized image. You know, sharing your creative work or thoughtful posts. And maybe just scrolling for distraction, which is kind of a basic comfort thing. It's all happening at once.
Yeah, you're right. All jumbled together.
Yeah.
And often leading to feeling worse, more anxious, more insecure.
Precisely, because you're constantly comparing, seeking external validation that might not come, feeling like you're missing out. You can be physically safe, fed, have a roof over your head, but feel utterly worthless because the belonging or esteem needs feel threatened online.
So modern life isn't really about climbing steps anymore.
Maybe it's more like trying to keep your balance in this swirling mix of needs, pressures, signals, all hitting you simultaneously. Survival, belonging, validation, purpose, it's all in the mix.
Which is why many psychologists now talk about needs more like networks, interconnected systems.
Exactly. Not rigid steps, but a dynamic system where things influence each other constantly and the priorities shift.
That feels much more like my actual experience. Some days I feel pretty solid. Other days it's like, okay, I need sleep, but I also need to talk to a friend and I need to finish this project. Oh, and I'm hungry.
Yep. Welcome to being human, especially now.
So maybe Maslow wasn't wrong exactly, just his model was maybe more reflective of its time before all this digital chaos and maybe more focus on fundamental rebuilding.
That's a really insightful way to put it. The world has changed. The pressures have changed. Burnout, loneliness, existential dread alongside instant food delivery and global connection. It's complex.
So we need models that reflect that complexity beyond just stacking blocks.
I think so. And people are developing them. You see ideas about needs as overlapping circles or webs.
Oh.
One that builds on Maslow but uses a different metaphor is Scott Barry Kaufman's sailboat model.
Sailboat. Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work?
Instead of climbing, Kaufman suggests thinking of life like, well, sailing a boat. To sail effectively, first you need a solid, seaworthy boat. right? That represents your foundational security, things like safety, connection, self-esteem. They give you stability.
Got it. The boat is your base.
Exactly. Then, to actually move, to explore and grow, you need to open your sails to the winds. Those wins represent things like exploration, purpose, love the growth needs, kind of like Maslow's higher
Oh,
levels.
security to stay afloat, growth to move forward.
Right. But here's the key difference from a static pyramid. The sea is always moving. There are always waves, storms, unexpected challenges, life's unpredictability, those unmet needs popping up. They never stop.
That feels incredibly real. Some days are smooth sailing, other days you're just bailing water.
Precisely. It acknowledges that growth isn't about reaching some final perfect state. It's about learning to navigate, adapting to changing conditions, mending your sails, becoming a resilient sailor, not just arriving at a destination.
And that loops back to what you said about Eastern philosophies, maybe, that the idea of a final achievement might be the illusion. It's more about the journey, the awareness.
Yes, exactly. The focus shifts to deepening qualities like clarity, compassion, inner freedom, which might even mean moving beyond the constant need for more external stuff or validation.
But man, society doesn't make that easy. It's always more, be more, get more, achieve more, climb higher.
That's the constant tension, isn't it? We're swimming in messages that equate our worth with relentless progress, rewarding the climb over finding peace where we are. Even when we have enough, objectively, we often feel like we don't.
So how do we deal with this whirlwind of needs and shoulds? We can't all just, check out and live in the cabin.
Maybe the starting point is just listening differently. Seeing our needs not as failures or levels we must conquer in order, but as signals. Important messages from within.
Signals about what?
About what truly matters to us right now, what's feeling out of balance, what we're genuinely longing for underneath all the external noise and expectations.
And accepting that those signals might be contradictory sometimes, like wanting peace and wanting to achieve something, wanting connection and needing solitude.
Absolutely. Embracing the paradox. Real life isn't a neat diagram. It's complex, it's messy, it holds contradictions. Maybe the real deep dive is learning to tune into our own unique signals, the specific needs of our own boat.
So if you're listening and feeling like my life doesn't fit that pyramid, or I feel stuck, or I'm going backwards, you're not broken.
Not at all. The pyramid was just one map, an early attempt. You're just sailing your boat.
Yeah.
Navigating your own unique waters with your own unique needs popping up.
And that messy, complex navigation, that's what being human actually
It
is.
pretty much sums it up.
Wow, okay. This has been genuinely really helpful. It feels like a conversation a lot of us probably need to hear.
I feel that too. It's good to untangle this stuff. And hey, if this resonated, maybe share it with someone else, someone also trying to figure out their own navigation.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe the final thought to leave people with is this. In a world shouting about what you should want, what wins are actually yours? How do you learn to listen to the signals from your own boat and tell the difference between the authentic pull of your sails and just the buffeting waves of everyone else's expectations?
That's the big question, isn't it?